Let's add our chunk goo to the game. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. Concept of chunk goo is close to having a miner. However, this miner will not mine any ore or valuable block. It will just remove the unneeded, useless blocks and break them to the floor and to the ground and go down and, empty a whole chunk. Basically, this would be good if you want to have something like slime chunk farms. However, keep in mind, in recent versions of Minecraft, there is a huge change regarding the slime chunk and slime farms. However, if for any reason you want to have a chunk that is totally empty of any block, this will be a really helpful thing to have. How this will work? The very first tick, we will put a carpet of chunk goo bombs around ourselves, and at the end we will convert ourselves into a chunk goo bomb. At the end of that first tick, we will have one layer of chunk goo bomb that sits horizontally on the chunk. After that, each chunk goo bomb will actually behave very, very much like the towering goo. So it will just look around itself. If it's air or water or lava, remove that and put it as a stone, and then, move down, move down, move down. Because we are using a whole carpet of these blocks sitting close to each other, when they are activated, they will go down almost at the same time. There will be some fluctuations because of the chance factor. However, at the end, they will catch up to each other, and chance of some good block adding stone to where it shouldn't is really slim. So let's deal with it. Well, the very first thing is the chunk goo bomb. As I said, it behaves much like the towering goo. Let's get the first part, copy, paste it in the tick method, and after that, well, here we go. Let's make sure that this is not air goo bomb, but chunk bomb chance. After that, the rest of the method should actually be close to what we have on the towering. So in the towering, we are looking for position side, and here we will look for position side and bottom again. So I will copy that part and I will put it here. And again, we are converting anything that is dangerous back into the stone. And finally, we go for this part. So we get the position. Oh, here was the change. I noticed in the towering goo original video, I had something called position direct to, and the direction was down. Now this is changed in my library to bottom. So we get the bottom, we get the Y, and we break, we put the block, we break, we put the block all the way to the end. The chunk goo bomb is actually a duplication of towering goo BE. So why did I use a bomb here? Now, first things first, this gives me the ability to have two different chances. Also, it gives me the ability to have two different blacklists. So having it separated thing is a good one. Now let's see, instead of setting towering goo, actually no, you know what? We are using towering goo. Yes, that's the thing. We are using towering goo all around here. Funny, isn't it? Now you may say, hey, wait a minute, why did you behave like this? And I think I did miss something. So this is the if, this should be the tick. Why are you not? Oh, this is the tick logic class. I think I missed an extra parenthesis here. An extra curly brace was missing. Okay, now here's the thing. As I said, this chunk goo will put a carpet of chunk goo bombs. This is the first layer. Each chunk goo bomb will put borders around themselves and then go down. Now take note, because we are layering a whole layer of them, the sides are okay. The only important one is the bottom. And then we put the towering goo below the chunk goo bomb. And from then, the towering goo will use its own chance to go down. Okay, now this should be not the, it should be actually the blacklist for towering. Yeah, I think I'm doing this a little bit finicky way. I'm thinking about my notes because I thought to myself, okay, why do I need a chunk goo bomb when I can use the towering goo? Let's go to the chunk goo block and see what is going on there. And what is this? It says extract method from duplicate code. No, okay, because I'm not sure if I'm following my notes here or not. Now, for the chunk goo, the very first thing is this. We want to make sure that we should use the chance to, explode. However, we are removing this part. We don't use the chance, okay? So we just check if we are powered and, we should spread and things like that. As I said, in the very first tick, we immediately put a carpet there. Now, what is a chunk size in Minecraft? It's 16 by 16 horizontally. So we want to make sure that we will get to the border of that chunk, okay? And the worst case scenario is that if the whole selected area is our chunk, our block is at the corner. So we have to go 16 on this direction and 16 on this direction. Anything in between, I need to go 8 and 8. However, here's the thing. If I go another 16 on each direction, in this scenario, I will get to the borders, isn't it? And well, beyond the borders. But then I can check if I'm in the chunk or not. If I'm not in the chunk, then just, continue. If I'm in the chunk, that is when I want to handle things. Now, here's the thing. If I go with minus 32 to 32, that makes 64 layers with 0 in there. Let's say that it's 65 by 65. It means 4,000 times looping through something. And honestly, it's a fast thing. But I want to limit it. I don't know. Let's go with this. For int x equals to minus 32. X is smaller than 32. X plus plus. That's our very first loop. Then we have another for loop that says if int z equals to minus 32, z is smaller than 32, and z plus plus. Now here we say block pause, we call it flat pause, equals to pause dot west with x amount dot north with z amount. Okay, so we are traveling, I don't know, 32 blocks toward the left or right, and then 32 blocks toward front or back. We don't care about which direction, because we say if is within chunk for the word and the flat pose, and we say that entity dot original chunk. Now we don't have that. I need to find a way to get this original chunk. And remember, the entity here is any block entity. So I need to typecast this entity to ourselves. So this is chunk goo be. Now that I made sure that we are properly typecast, we can get the original chunk here as a variable. However, I want to get a wrapper there. So if we are within chunk, then we want to check not word dot get block state at the flat pause dot is of mod blocks dot towering goo. It shouldn't be, but we are just doing sanity checks. And another check that if on the flat pause, we are not ourselves, so we are not the chunk goo. That is when we are sure that we can move forward. So we say world.setBlockState for that flat position with the chunk goo bomb. Why don't I see that chunk bomb goo? Sorry. Get default state with the no properties.power, and that would be 3, and the flag would be blocks.notify all. Now this effectively should set us ready to roll, but after the for loop, outside of both of the for loops, we say if world.getBlock entity at the position is instance of chunk goo be, and we call it be. We say be.reset chunk because, well, we want to reset the chunk after we are finished. And then we say world.setBlockState at the position that we are in to be the last chunk bomb goo with the power to true and notify all. Now we have to add few different things. One of them is this original chunk to our block entity. Don't forget, this tick class is an internal class. So on top we say private world chunk, and we call it original chunk. We call it to be null at the start. And then after the constructor, we want to have a getter. So we say public word chunk, original chunk. If it's null, actually, you know what? That would work. And we want to make sure that the word is not null. So if word does not equal to null and the original chunk is actually null, then set it and finally return the chunk. So that should fix this error. And it says change type of entity to be this. But that means that here we have to do a typecast. So let me do it. My library is understanding the type, so that's okay. Now we have to add few different methods here. Instead of actually doing it here, we just call set chunk as a method, and let's add that one first. I will add it right here. So we say public void set chunk, and we don't check that null here. So if this.word does not equal null, then get the word chunk of the position. After that, we want to say public void reset chunk. All we are doing here, we say that original chunk equals to null. So we are resetting it back. And finally, our last method, we say is within word that we accept a word and position and chunk, but we are not doing it this way. We say if the chunk dot equals to the word dot get word chunk at the position. We didn't need to do anything else. So if the chunk that we are in is the same chunk, then we are in the same chunk. But if we are getting a new chunk from the block position around ourselves and that chunk is not our chunk, then ignore it. So basically, let me explain this last part of the code. Let's say that we are a block here and we want to put a block here. This is our original pos. So this part is checking this block, but the chunk that we are sending in is the chunk belonging to this block. So we are asking, hey, if the new block is inside the same chunk as us, that's okay, that's awesome. However, if we are a block at the corner and we want to check this one, okay, the word that get chunk is this, but the chunk that we are sending in belongs to this guy, and these are not equal to each other. So we will pass through the loop. Now, believe it or not, this is the whole thing. And because we are using the towering goo blacklist, actually we are not bothered with having a new blacklist here. If we want to have a new blacklist for whatever reason, we can change these blacklists to be, I don't know, chunk goo blacklist. But again, it would be a duplication of the towering goo. And there is one single reason that I did do this, and that is to give myself flexibility in future for whatever reason. And as I said, the chances are different here. As you see, we are using the chance for the bomb here. Of course, the towering goo will use its own chance. So let's dive into the game and take a look. Okay, now you will understand why did I pause and had my doubt with my code. This shouldn't be the result. Actually, when I was looking at my notes and trying to code, I messed things up. I was looking at the towering goo and I thought that was okay. However, that's not. The chunk goo bomb has one very special difference, and that is I should open a curly braces here, and close it here. And before this check for the surrounding, I should say if word dot get word chunk of the position equals to the chunk of the side that we want, then continue. This will prevent us to put any stone inside the same chunk. Basically, we are just making a border around ourselves in another chunk, not in the same chunk. That's one huge difference there. And that is why I couldn't use the towering goo. Now I remember that. And now that I'm basically replacing the logic, of course, when we are going down, we need to replace ourselves with chunk, bomb, goo all around, and we can't be the towering goo anymore. However, for the blacklist, as I said, I can use the towering one. If I want to, I can move toward using a chunk one, but that's okay. Also, I have to get this one line of code, and here when we are making sure that we want to put the chunk bomb before doing it, we want to break the flat pose, okay, and then put the chunk bomb. Now let's double check chunk bomb, chunk bomb, chunk bomb, chunk bomb, chunk bomb, chunk bomb, and finally, yes, this was a really critical change that I've missed right there. Okay, now let's run the game one last time and check the result. Okay, let's go into the game. And the easiest way to see the behavior is to hit the F3 and G. This will rise up the borders of the chunk as the debug GUI. As you see, now that I see the borders of each chunk, I will put my block inside the chunk, maybe 1 or 2 blocks inside, not double, only one. And I will move a little bit farther away and I will activate it. This will let me take a look at the chunk. And as you see, it became the chunk bomb goo. and it's going down. Okay, poor guy, you're going down with it. Now take note, we have some water sources here and there. Unfortunately, I'm not replacing that with anything, and this will be a trouble. If you are going to deal with something like this, you may want to make sure that you have another way of cleaning this water. Now, if I really want to, I can place them with air, because water and lava can become air. And honestly, if I keep the water as it is and we move down, too much lag because of the items. Yeah, this will become a laggy process, I'm telling you. Whatever. Let's drop down. As you see, now I'm in water. And I need to find a way to clean this water because of all the problems that we have. And I'm just going down, 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 down. Okay? And of course, I can't fly because of the lag. Too much items flying around. Okay, let's close this server. Now, how to make sure that I will not fall in the same problem. Now, here's the thing. If we are inside the same chunk, instead of continuing, I can do something else. Before the continuation, I can use the same code, but instead of stone, I will switch to air, and I don't want to check the air state. So if we are lava or if we are water, then please become air. This will reduce our problem. It will not eliminate it completely, but it will reduce our problem. And I think we can go forward and take a look at another example. Now, I can't move into the same world right now because there are tons of items running around. The lag is unavoidable right now. And of course, if I stop recording and if it was not a mod developing environment with something like IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate running behind the scenes, the game would be faster and chances are that I wouldn't have any lag there. Okay, I will nuke this world, honestly, and I will create another one that is creative, peaceful, and we just want the advanced time of day and update weather to be false. Done. Create new world. Let me do a few things. Options. Video settings, let's see. Render distance, I don't need that many chunks to be seen. The simulation can be there. I want full brightness. And VSync is on, let's turn it off. Max frame rate, view popping is okay. Quality, not fabulous, just keep it at fast. That's one of the main reasons. Weather default, please default. Particles all, smooth lighting, biome blending and stuff. Okay, apply and done. This should help me with my FPS. 8, 13, 20, still laggy because of world gen around me. Okay, now back to 50 something. Okay, and we want a chunk goo and we want a copper rod. Okay, with F3G, there we go. So I will fly because if I don't, I will lose my chance, and I will put it there, activate it and move back. And as you see, it's moving down, it's putting a wall around itself, and it's removing everything. And here should be the problem because we are dealing with waters, as you see below, but we are removing that water. And yes, we are lagging a little bit. Now, you may see that the final result is really, really, really close to what we had for the command, DCLR command. And actually it is, because we are doing the same thing inside the game by a game mechanic. And as you see, this is the same problem that we had with DCLR. Some blocks remain because of, new water sources, but that's okay. So it is actually eating all the way through the final positions. This should come down, as you see, by its own speed and break the blocks. And the game is lagging a lot for two different reasons. First, we have water flowing all around, and second, these blocks are creating lots and lots and lots of items that are dropping on the floor, and that means lag. And some of these waters are just flowing waters that are going down, as you see. It's another reason for the lag. So I will pause the video and come back when it's done and finished. Okay, after a few minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, nothing more, it's already finished. And as you see, my inventory is full, and I don't know how many items did I lose because of my full inventory, although these blocks are still there. And honestly, I think this is the best result that we can get. Of course, we have one single block here that if I destroy, lots of these water flowing things will go down and will be disappeared. That's it. Basically, I think for emptying a chunk and being able to mine these resources, the price of having some waters floating around that needs manual removal is not a big deal. And as you saw, it's just one single block. And when we remove that 1 or 2 blocks, all of these flowing waters are going to drop, and I think we will hit the bedrock. So now, how can you clean this mess? It's up to you as a player. And actually, that's a challenge there for you. The goo is helping you cleaning a chunk, but leaving you a mess that you need to, cover a lot. And as you see, sometimes it's not behaving as I intended to. It should put stones there instead of air. It didn't, but that's okay, I think. All in all, the whole idea here is for the goo to empty a chunk all the way to the bottom layer, and it did it, and it did a good job for it. Of course, I could reduce the speed of the goo, and that may help a little bit on that floating water sources, but I think it won't help that much. The lag is unavoidable because of the lots of things that are happening here, lots of floating dropped items, maybe some waters that are going down, and the goos are behaving and working, so it's unavoidable, but hey, guess what? We have our goo block now that is actually handling the air, handling the lava and water inside the chunk and putting a border around itself outside of the chunk as much as it can handle. And honestly, I think it did a decent job of doing that. Now, if you want to, as I said, be my guest, add a blacklist for the goo. Although, because the behavior is so close to the towering, I think the towering blacklist is all we need here. And that's our chunk goo. Now, after chunk goo, we have a few more to cover. We already covered air, chunk, and stone and towering. Let's start with something interesting like lava eating goo. Why not? If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.